Okay, well this is not as relaxing as I thought. Hey there, poetry pals. Welcome back to another video. This week, I'll be doing the Authortube Newbie Tag. I'm sorry, I like Starbucks now. If you missed my announcement 2 weeks ago, then you won't know that I am getting published. Woo! I'm gonna be answering these Authortube Newbie Tag questions, even though I've been doing YouTube for quite a while. I just thought that now that I am officially going to be a published writer, I thought I could join in this tag without feeling like a complete imposter. But before we go any further, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications. It really helps small creators like me get found. And while we're on the subject, why don't you follow me on social media? I am at Josie Alford Poet on all the things. I am currently traveling around the world right now, hence my jazzy hammock-based surroundings. So if you follow me on Instagram, that's the best place to catch up on all of my travel adventures. If you want to support the channel with your money, you can buy me a coffee or join me on Patreon. The links to do both are in the description down below. Question 1 is, how did you find out about Authortube? It was actually during a mentoring session with Jen Campbell. I recently did a DYCP, which is a developing your creative process grant with the Arts Council, and part of that is all to do with, I'm actually working on creating a spoken word show related to my book, but one thing at a time. Part of it was I also got to have mentoring from a load of really cool people, including Jen Campbell, talking about being a writer, having a YouTube channel. What? And she's the one who actually introduced me to the Authortube community, and I love you guys. Question 2 is, what genres do you write in? Now, I realise that this Authortube is going to be applying to people who write prose, mostly fiction. I write poetry. To get more specific, I am a poet who takes influence from more traditional page poetry. I do have an academic background. Academia is what brought me into poetry, but I also take a lot of influence from spoken word and performance. I enjoy performing my poetry. It is not just a poetry reading, it's a poetry experience, dare we say. In terms of like what I write about, as with quite a lot of poetry, it is fairly confessional, which means you're writing about yourself. Grief and the Spice Girls, that's me. What is your preferred writing tense, point of view, and category of story? I'm going to adapt this question slightly because category of story is maybe relevant to prose writers but not to poets. So I'm going to say, what's your favourite form instead? So question 3, what is your preferred writing tense? I think present. I'm trying to think about this collection I've got coming out and how much of it is is in which tense, and I think present is probably like a go-to. That might be unusual compared to prose writers because a lot of, especially fiction, will be written in past tense. So I think, don't get me wrong, I have written in all tenses. Like, I know that all 3 tenses do feature in this collection, but it's probably mostly present because I was writing it all in the moment. Be interesting to see if that continues going forward as I do new collections. So yeah, it was tense, point of view. I think what they mean is narrator, right? Yeah, I think so. So, as in first person, third person, second person. I like to play around with it. But it's definitely first person. It's definitely first. I use I quite a lot. Especially this collection. It's so personal. It's about my personal experience with grief. So I'm gonna be using the I quite a lot. I do write from different points of view. One of the first poems is actually written in the voice of my dad, which is interesting. So yeah, first person is probably mostly, but I like to experiment with it. I know that I swear to God, every spoken word poet has at least one that's you, so that really gets the audience going. So yeah. Okay, and the category of story. Okay, so form is what I'm going to say instead. What is my favourite form? I think my go-to form is sonnets, just because I will frequently go to sonnets as kind of a comfort form. I don't often write in an actual form, so I guess my answer is actually, free verse. I always get confused about blank verse and free verse, because one is iambic pentameter but no rhyme, and one is no rhythm, no set rhyme, and I get them confused. So I'm going to make the correct answer flash up in front of my face right now. Woo. But if I had to pick an actual form, it would be sonnets. I wrote a dissertation which was a collection of sonnets that track and mirror the sonnet form and its development throughout English history. Boom! And so yeah, I've just learned so much about sonnets that it's just a go-to. Shakespearean's my favourite, obviously. Why would I pick an Italian sonnet when English doesn't rhyme as much as Italian? This is not about sonnets, but one of my most popular videos is how to write a sonnet. I will make it pop up so you can watch it. Question 4 is, are you a plotter, a pantser, or a plantser? So for any poets watching this going, what the hell does any of that mean? I happen to know. It means that when you're writing your novel, do you map out the plot first and plan out your novel? Or do you write by the seat of your pants? Or do you do a little bit of both? A plantser. Now, plantser. Oh, yeah, I don't like plantser as a word, but that's definitely what I am when it comes to poetry. Yeah, a lot of poets who write would be considered pantsers because they will write poems and then bring them together to be in a collection. Whereas for me, I, at least with this collection, had an idea and a plan from the very beginning. I was going to write a collection about Dad's death and what grief that was, but I made that decision that I was going to write that collection about 2 months after Dad died. I had no idea how the grief was going to affect me or how it was going to develop and grow over the period of time it took me to write the book. So I think that it's an interesting question, but I think I am a plantser, as in I plot a little bit, but I also write by the seat of my pants. When inspiration comes, you don't ignore it. And also with collection number 2, which I am sort of beginning writing now, bits and bobs of it, there's definitely a plan, like I know what the collection is going to be about, but I'm also just writing here and there. There's not like a serious plan or anything like that. Does that make sense? I hope so. Question 5, are you self-published, published, or yet to be published? I guess technically I'm yet to be published, but I have been accepted for publication by a publishing company. it is an indie company, so there will be things that I will do myself that you wouldn't necessarily get at a traditional publishing company. But again, for poets tend to be a lot more involved in the process of editing their collection, as well as putting together a book cover and stuff like that. By the way, book cover reveal, hopefully coming in 2 weeks. Question 6 is, what publishing company, literary agent and/or printing company are you represented by or use? If you're not yet published, what is your dream publishing house and/or literary agent? So my publisher is Verve Poetry Press. Unfortunately, in poetry, it is very rare to have a literary agent. Only the top people will have that. It is far more common for poets to do all of the legwork of approaching publishers themselves, unless you're truly making it. Because this is interesting, right? Because this is something that I learned doing my creative writing degree, is we learned that for fiction, non-fiction, for prose writers, it is a normal part of getting traditionally published is getting an agent. Then your agent takes your manuscript to editors. But in the poetry world, that basically doesn't exist. If you have an agent in the poetry publishing world, chances are you've already had a couple of books out already, or you magically blew up on social media and you got an agent that way. But you don't tend to get literary agents for poets, mostly. All of that's to say, I don't have a literary agent. My publisher is Verve Poetry Press. Question 7 is, what Authortube related videos can we expect on your channel? So I have written, filmed and released a lot of videos about poetry and how to write poetry. I've also made a couple of videos on how to publish poems. Now all of those have been individual poems. I didn't make videos about how to publish poetry collections because I didn't want to feel like a fraud, because I hadn't actually been published. I mean, I've known for a little while that I was going to get published, but I didn't want to put videos online being like how to get published, and then people go, you aren't published, why should I listen to you? But now that I can say that I am published, what you can expect over the next 6 months before my book comes out is that I will be putting out how to get published videos about how to publish a poetry collection, how to write it, how to edit it, all of that good stuff, whilst sharing what I have learned from my own personal experience. I am excited to share that with you. Question 8 was, when did you start writing? I honestly don't know. Like, I feel like I did write as a kid, and so many people have these stories of like, oh yes, I've been writing since I was a child, actually. I wrote poetry for blah, 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 blah. There isn't a poetry event in Bristol, Milk Poetry, who have an event that they put on every now and then called Strong Bones. It's about poets bringing their old poetry that they wrote as children in to share. And the thing is, I don't know if I have any evidence of any poetry that I wrote before the age of 18, but I know that I definitely started getting into writing poetry in a big way whilst at university for my undergrad. So around 18, 19, still a teenager, but definitely an adult. Question number 9, again, it's kind of hard to answer, which is, what was the first story you ever wrote? So actually I did used to write stories, and I'm pretty sure the first story I ever wrote was how I became the 6th Spice Girl. There's been a theme. But in terms of the first poem I ever wrote, I genuinely could not tell you. I'm making it sound like I forgot most of my childhood, but like, I know I always enjoyed writing, but was it always poetry? I don't know. I didn't keep all my shit. Oh. Number 10, what authors have inspired your writing the most? I think in terms of the poems that I've written in the last 5 years, especially the ones that feature in this collection, the authors that have inspired me the most would have to be Pascal Petit, Margaret Thatcher, no, not Margaret Thatcher, Christina Thatcher, who wrote an excellent collection called More Than You Were, which was about losing her dad. And probably, I'm gonna have to say Tim Liarde, but like, I feel like he inspired me to carry on through spite. For context, Tim Liarde is an excellent poet. He's a lecturer on the Bath Spa creative writing program, which I did for my master's, and he mentored me, and he's a very knowledgeable guy. He just also happens to hate spoken word, and we disagreed a lot. And so this poetry collection is almost dedicated to spiting him, and I'm proud of that. Question 11 is, do you schedule your writing sessions or do you just write whenever you get the time? I really like this question. Since I've been freelance, I actually schedule writing time. I've realised as well that writing poetry is a key part of my mental health journey, so I need it. I need to write regularly. But before then, I would just write whenever I could. And when I've been travelling, that's been an interesting one. I try to get myself to write, just free write 10 minutes a day. Like, that doesn't mean it has to be an actual poem written. It just means that I have to try writing for 10 minutes every day. I think it's going okay. Question 12 is, do you type on a computer, typewriter, write everything out by hand, or use a blend of those? This is a question that I love because I do use a blend of the two, but when starting writing on any topic, I will always start with a notebook, and actually trying to write a poem on a laptop stresses me out. Watch my How to Write a Triolet video for how much it stressed me out. It was so annoying. But yeah, I generally start with a notebook. That's where I do my free write. I'll probably do the sort of like actually turning it into a poem in my notebook as well. And then when typing it up, that becomes part of the editing process and part of the drafting process, because in typing it up, I'll be able to smooth out all of the rough bits, I guess. So yeah, definitely a mixture. If you want to know more, I have made a video of how to write a poem, which is ages old, but I still use the same method, so go and check it out. Question 13, the last question. What are you most looking forward to now that you're a part of Authortube? I'm looking forward to being a part of a community of writers and leeching motivation from all of you. I'm excited to share my advice and my content, but I'm also interested in seeing what we can learn from each other, what prose writers can learn from poets and what I can learn from prose writers. I'm really excited. That's definitely a part of it. So if you are watching this because you have your Authortube channel and you are a prose writer, please don't think that this video isn't for you, or that my channel isn't for you, or that you're not for me. I definitely want to learn from you as well. So if you find this video through the tag, please comment below with your channel, because I would love to follow you back and learn what I can from you as well. That's all the questions, so I just have to do the sign off. Okay, we're burning daylight and there are people using the hotel roof, but that's okay. We're gonna do it. So that's it for this week's video. I hope you found it interesting. Welcome if you're new to the channel. Feel free to subscribe, like this video, turn on notifications, and join the Poetry Pals crew. It'd be great to have you as part of my channel. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to follow me on social media. I am at Josie Alford Poet, and I am currently traveling the world and filming in precarious locations like the hotel roof and People are watching me film. I hate filming in public. Let's finish this outro. If you want to support the channel with your money, you can buy me a coffee or join me on Patreon. Patrons will receive updates on the publishing journey, so make sure you do that. The links to do both are in the description down below. My next video will be out in 2 weeks, and hopefully it will be the cover reveal video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all next week. Bye.